I think being smart is cool. Think about someone like Sherlock Holmes, L from Death Note, Senku from Dr. Stone, or the classic smart guy, Albert Einstein. I mean, that guy is a One Piece character modeled after him. How sick is that? All of these people got to where they are and are so iconic because they were smart. Einstein's famous equation, E equals mc squared, the theory of relativity, and many more things a mere anime lover like myself can't begin to understand. But those things didn't just come to him naturally. He studied and researched for hours and hours on end to get there. LLN Light's intense intellectual battles and their witty schemes, all of that makes them seem like bona fide geniuses. I think being smart is cool, which is exactly why I don't think Classroom of the Elite is. A few years ago, when I was still a prepubescent 12-year-old, I stumbled upon Classroom of the Elite. And at the time, I thought it was the coolest thing ever. Ayano Koji's cold, calculating personality and him controlling people with his pure genius. All of these were just cool to me. And with a new season coming out, which, why is there a new season? I wanted to revisit Classroom of the Elite to help me catch up with everything until the new season. I expected the same feelings as back then, but my expectations were heavily subverted. Not only was it not cool, it was simply f***ing stupid. Today, I, NoahBoahCoah, will be explaining why Classroom of the Elite is the dumbest smart anime. First, before I dive into the cesspool, I wanted to let you know that this is the anime we are talking about. The original source material, though I doubt it, could be a masterpiece, but I just am not reading it or talking about it today. Classroom of the Elite takes place in Japan in the near future in a prestigious government-sponsored school. Graduating from said school gives you a 100% guaranteed chance of acceptance to any college or job. There's one other special thing about this school. It makes all of its students live inside the school and cuts any interaction with the outside world. However, the school has many institutions in it to help emulate the outside world. Movies, cafes, stores, malls, pools, you name it. You pay for these services with a point system where each student is given points at the start of each month. With those points, you can buy anything in the school. This story is about the school's Class D, the class of misfits, and the story of them rising through the ranks. Before I get into the bad things, I wanted to give Classroom of the Elite some credit where credit is due. It is great at concealing itself as intellectual. To a viewer who watches without putting much thought into the show, this anime will seem cool and smart. They use big words, act like the edgiest people, quote famous old guys, and talk about different philosophies. Now, even these are pretty far reaches since they do set things very poorly, like quoting old European dudes where it doesn't even make sense. The first scene in the entire show is this. Was writing it in 3 separate languages necessary? No, but the German makes a show seem smarter than it actually is. Now, based on the quote, take a guess at what the episode is about. If you guessed, the first episode will dive into different injustices about the world and how the morality of each side is questionable, with ideas such as moral greatness and 正義は勝つて、そりゃそうだろう。勝者だけが正義だ。You would be absolutely wrong. The episode is actually about getting to know the cast and how the school works, and the twist at the end is just those students weren't giving all those points without a cost. They will be given points in line to how good they were being during class. That quote means nothing. Even the MC's first monologue about inequality and how the world is a meritocracy has no fucking meaning whatsoever, and you can't forget the classic line in the sub. Really? They use big words the same reason we add extra syllables, characters, and sentences to an English essay with the 2,000 words requirement due tomorrow at midnight. Also, if you have a 2,000 words English essay due tomorrow at midnight, stop procrastinating. Pause the video, go do it now. Right now. Did you finish it yet? Well, now I will be getting into the bad things about the anime. Yes, all that before was me praising something. This show is unapologetically horrible with almost nothing to go for it and almost everything going against it. The animation, except for when it comes to boobs and that one fight scene, the characters are all insufferable assholes, the smart schemes with massive quotation marks around the smart, the convoluted plot filled with holes, everything. And boy are the characters terrible. Our protagonist Ayano Koji is a guy who tries to be average to not stand out, but is secretly a super genius psychopath. Horikita is the I don't need friends. I choose the path of loneliness to achieve my goals character, who is basically just a stuck-up bitch. Kushida is the I just want to be friends with everyone girl with big boobs. Or is she? I'll save that for later. The first thing that told me that this show would be stupid was the first deduction Horikita makes about something. You might have noticed that there's a problem with the two character types, a girl who doesn't want friends and a girl who wants all the friends. So Kushida asks Ayano Koji if he can bring her to the cafe so that they can be friends, and he agrees. Ayano Koji gets Horikita to go to the cafe, but Horikita notices that this is a setup. How? Because people from Class D are leaving only after a few minutes. Yup. That is what makes her think that she is being set up. How exactly does that prove anything? And there are countless explanations for them leaving fast. They could be, I don't know, picking up a coffee, just suddenly not feeling like it, they didn't have what they want, and the list goes on and on. This is another attempt of the anime trying to be smart, but the exact opposite is true. And this will be a pretty common theme throughout the video. This episode shows the students blowing through their money and using it carelessly. The teacher also kinda sucks, and she just kinda reads off a textbook with no care about what the students are doing during class. This makes the students slack during class. However, here comes the big twist. The students were not giving points at the start of the new month, and most of them have spent it all. The teacher explains that this is because they were being bad boys and girls. Also, are you telling me that these high school students are genuinely this stupid? They really thought that they would be granted that much money every month without any standard they need to meet. But also, at the same time, they weren't told any of this, which is fair. The teacher explains that the students' performances are evaluated and points are given based on how well they do. When a student asks the teacher how the points will be evaluated, she says,
実社会と同じだ。人事効果。詳細な査定の内容は教えられない。
But the thing is, you are! You get a job, they will teach you how to do it. For a school project, there's a rubric and a teacher. You can learn so much about the world just by asking. So this you aren't told anything in the real world sentiment is just plain false. But again, to someone not thinking too hard about the show, this will seem fairly reasonable. The second episode starts with an insignificant pool scene with a significant amount of jiggling boobs. Ayano Koji and Horikita talk about ways to get good scores on an upcoming test to raise their score, as doing well on the test would grant them some points. But failing the test could lead to expulsion. Pseudo, our punk jock character, who is very good at basketball, doesn't want in on that. In this meritocracy, test scores matter if they want money. But wait, being good at a sport isn't a merit? Because if the school was truly meritocratic, like Ayano Koji says in his first ever monologue, it would. Also, if being good at a sport doesn't act as a merit, how the hell did people like Pseudo even get into the school in the first place? He is objectively below average at school. His only selling point is being good at basketball, but that apparently doesn't matter in a meritocracy. Why expel students with bad grades instead of just not letting them in? Matter of fact, why is anyone in Class D even in the school? That is a classroom of students that don't get the best scores on tests. But then why let any of them into the school of the elite for elite students? For plot purposes? I can't think of any other reason. Anyways, Ayano Koji gets Kushida, who is loved by everyone, to ask people to a study group held by Horikita, and Jesus fucking Christ is Horikita. Everything that leaves her mouth just makes me want to... Oh! She continues to talk down to people in the study group, and rightfully, they end up leaving. And that makes Kushida sad. I mean, she literally says it.
どうして堀北さんはそうやって敵を作るようなこと平気で言えちゃうの？そんなの私悲しいよ。
You can't just have your characters announce how they feel. That makes me feel angry.
And after all the things Horikita has said, we are supposed to feel bad for her and understand her when a few seconds later she is about to get beat up by her brother for being a shame? You see, Horikita wants to rise through the rankings of classes to catch up with her student council president brother, but her brother sees her as a failure for being in Class D. And even after Ayano Koji saves her, she still has a gall to still be stuck up and talk down to others as she is giving her sympathetic backstory, mind you. Anyways, the two later buy an exact copy of the test they will be taking from an upperclassman to give out to everyone in their class. Everyone passes, except Pseudo. How the hell you fail with the answers and questions given to you, I don't know, but what I do know is that Pseudo will get expelled for his low scores. But if you remember, I said earlier that you can buy anything with the points. I meant anything. even points on a test. They pay the teacher to raise the score on Pseudo's test to make him barely pass, and when everyone asks how it is done, Ayanokoji gave all the credit to Horikita. Everyone thanks Horikita for what she has done, and this bothers Kushida. Really bothers her.
ああうざい。自分が可愛いと思ってお高く止まりやがって。ああ最悪。本当最悪最悪最悪。死ねばいいのに。堀川なんか。うざい。本当うざい。そんな。
Now, this may have been a big twist that Kushida is actually like this for some people, but oh no, not me. I knew that she couldn't just be a regular Genki girl in an intellectual mind games anime. I thought she was gonna be a yandere, which I pretty much guessed perfectly with how obsessed she gets with Horikita. And also, look at the scene in a future season.
そうまでして。あなたは。私の生きがいだもん。昔から尊敬され注目されることが何より好き。
If that doesn't scream super cool, ultra edgy 2013 yandere, I don't know what does. Well, when Ayanokoji sees her like this, Kushida makes him touch her boob. Yup. She grabs his hand and puts it on her chest, so if he tells anyone about her true personality, she'll tell everyone that he did some naughty things to her. But there are just so many problems with that. First of all, she cannot wash that jacket anymore, which, ew. But second of all, he could have picked up the jacket or done an accidental boob grab. Third, if you were forcing someone to do naughty things, there's no way to only touch that one spot. If she struggled at all, he would have had to touch a lot more than that. Also, I refuse to believe that in a futuristic school sponsored by the government that there is no CCTV. If there is any CCTV in the general area that they are in, her plan becomes moot. Finally, to top all of that off, as if it wasn't enough, Ayanokoji asks one of the dumbest questions I've seen in a while. Let me just have my live reaction do all the explaining. What the fuck do you think? After that mess, we get into more mess. However, this time, the mess involves a case of Pseudo allegedly beating 3 students up. By himself. He calls it self-defense, but no proof of that exists. If only a witness spoke up. Oh, what is this? The screen zooms into a girl with important anime character color hair who seems like she has something she wants to say. I wonder if said witness exists. And again, seriously, no cameras or anything anywhere? We are then properly introduced to Ryuen from Class C, acting like what an 11-year-old might think of as a cool boss of a gang. Arms around a babe while she pours him a drink in a club with sick rock music. A big black dude to beat people up for you. He has it all. He makes it very obvious that he did all that to Pseudo, so we already know who did it, but the characters still don't. Class D goes around and searches for clues and witnesses about the case, and Horikita finds out that the pink-haired girl from before, Sakura, was a witness. Horikita knew this because while everyone was paying attention when Pseudo was being exposed in class, one girl in particular wasn't, and that girl was Sakura. Once again, Horikita makes a deduction filled with holes. Sakura could have been tired, looking at her phone, just not caring, etc, etc. But since this is a smart anime with smart characters, Horikita is right. Horikita also says that even with Sakura testifying, it might not make much of a difference since Pseudo's nature and past actions make him less credible. Do you see the problem? That's the entire point of a witness, to find someone credible. To make it even worse, Sakura has it all in a picture. When Kushida approaches her about it, she tries to run away, dropping and breaking her camera in the process. Sakura goes with Ayanokoji and Kushida to get her camera fixed by a creepy dude. We later find out that Sakura is actually a lewd Instagram model and wanted to hide it, which also happens to be the reason she initially ran away from Kushida. During the hearing, things aren't going well for our boy Pseudo. He is lashing out and saying things that could incriminate him further. Horikita is struggling to talk because her brother is there to oversee the hearing, and so as any sane person would, Ayanokoji tickles her for 25 seconds, making her make very lewd noises during the whole time. Don't believe me? Well, look at this.
須藤君は無傷であり、石崎君たちだけが負傷している。
放心状態であろうと体に強い刺激を与えられれば意識は覚醒する。
If that was hard to sit through, just know that I had to sit through it the first time, the second time to really make sure I wasn't seeing things, a third time to count the seconds, and a fourth time to record it. Also, Jesus, they really tried to even make that part sound smart. This, however, gets her head back in the game, and she starts to question and argue with the victims. Her argument is that the 3 victims are pretty big people themselves, and one of them was notorious for being a good fighter, and that it doesn't make sense that they got beaten up that badly while Pseudo is unscathed. She then pulls out the big gun. Like, did we really need to see those pictures? Even then, the pictures are completely useless because the pictures she showed them ended up not being enough to prove that Pseudo was completely innocent. So the teacher from Class C offered a compromise. Suspension for both sides, with Pseudo's being a week longer. Horikita objects and says that Pseudo is completely innocent and that this was all an elaborate setup by a mastermind from Class C. The student council president, who is looking over the whole thing, says that the final judgment will be held the next day, and if no one comes out and pleads guilty, expulsions may be involved. Now, Horikita and Ayanokoji need to find a way to make the students from Class C confess. How would they do that? With the camera, of course. So they planted a fake camera in the scene of the incident and tell them that there was always a camera there and that their crimes were on recording. The Class C students withdraw their complaint, but there's so much wrong with this. The smart schemes from both classes were just blatantly lying. Also, if the boys believed that the cameras were real, it means that they didn't know that there weren't any cameras there to begin with. Then why the fuck would you carry out your plan in a place where you aren't sure there aren't any cameras? This sort of thing happens many more times through the show where the schemes aren't that smart, but the ones being schemed on is just really stupid. Think about Death Note. The traps and schemes between L and Light follow this very basic formula. Light does something smart, but L does something even smarter, and Light should be cornered, but haha, Light did something even smarter than the even smarter thing. It is a back and forth between 2 smart people outsmarting each other, and everyone loves it. The show and its characters feel genuinely smart and cool. However, Classroom of the Elite's formula is the opposite. Person A blatantly lies to person B. A suddenly becomes dumb, and B is able to put them in a corner by lying harder. But haha, B suddenly outdumbs the dumb, and A puts them back in a corner because A was lying all along. But then A's IQ halves, and Ayanokoji lies and says some BS about how this was all part of his plan, and somehow ends the whole fiasco. And people love it. That is the main problem. Unassuming viewers just don't notice this kind of stuff and think that the schemes are actually smart. But give it any thought and the whole show comes crumbling down. Anyways, in the rest of the episode, nothing really of importance happens except one thing, which isn't really important to the plot, but I just had to point it out. You remember that creepy guy from earlier? Yeah, well, he tries to, do some not very good things to Sakura. I think you can guess what. But Ayanokoji saves her, and now she likes him. Yep, that's about it. I don't know if this was an attempt at fan service or what, but this whole little side plot was just completely unwarranted and really does nothing. But get excited for the next episode. It's obligatory slice of life bikini episode, baby! Yeah, I'm not gonna go into any further detail exactly what you think happens. Guys trying to peep into the girls' bathroom bit and all. This is then followed by our new arc. The students are sent to an island by themselves to survive for a week. But there is a catch. You can buy luxury items with the points used to evaluate how a class is doing. The same ones that determine who gets how many points. You start off with a certain amount of extra points given at the start, and as stated before, you can choose to spend them or save them. Whatever points left over will be added to your overall evaluation. Also, you can gain bonus points for capturing various spots throughout the island. Only the leaders, appointed to each class by leader cards, are allowed to capture the points. The captured points last in possession to a class for 8 hours after capturing. The last rules are that you aren't allowed to change leaders without a valid reason, and that at the last day, the classes will take a guess on who the other leaders are. Guessing correctly will give them a big bonus of points, while guessing incorrectly will have the opposite effect. The test begins, and Ayanokoji goes out with Sakura to scout the island. They find Class A's spot, and also by coincidence ends up seeing someone with a card. The test goes on, Class D chooses Horikita as their leader, and finds a cool spot for a point by the river. While Ayanokoji is out looking for firewood, they find a hurt girl named Ibuki from Class C. They decide to let her stay at the camp until her wounds heal. But how did she get those wounds? Why, of course, she got beat up by Ryuen, so she ran away from Class C and is staying in Class D. Weirdly, Pseudo just starts to call out Ibuki for no reason and accuses her of being the underwear thief. Let me explain. The night before, someone stole one of the girls' underwears, then the super important card gets stolen. Then their camp gets set on fire. They must have a mole in their camp sabotaging them. Who could it be? In fact, I'll let you do the guessing. Is it A, all a coincidence? B, a betrayal due to a long-running hatred of the Classroom D? Or is it the fucking random blue-haired girl who shows up and is all, I got beat up by Class C and I want nothing to do with them anymore, as they find out conveniently that there's a mole, and even more conveniently, as she disappears to somewhere. And wow! Good stuff, Pseudo! Also, I don't see a reason she needed to steal the underwear, but oh well, who doesn't love a good cute girl's underwear, I guess? Oh, also, I forgot to mention, but Horikito is sick this whole time. Why is this important? Well, if you remember before, an extra very oddly specific rule existed. You are not allowed to switch leaders without a valid reason, which means that if a valid reason existed, for example, someone was sick, you could theoretically switch leaders. Horikita chases Ibuki, who stole the card, and they fight, but Horikita ultimately gets knocked out, which, thank you, and Ibuki gets away. This is where the switching rule comes into play. They are able to switch out Horikita as their leader due to her sickness, and suddenly their card being stolen doesn't matter anymore. This little trick could have been pretty clever if that rule in the beginning didn't stand out so much. Since that was the only extra rule, the viewers expected that to have some sort of play. The better way to make the scheme a big twist that no one expected was if there were a few other rules sprinkled in with that. It would have concealed that rule and probably would have made everyone forget about it. But instead, it has a very unsubtle feeling to it. That rule is very random and way too specific for it to be unexpected. Again, to an unassuming viewer, they wouldn't pick this up and the whole thing could seem kinda smart. But pay any attention to the dialogue and how the teacher is all like, those were the rules. Oh yeah, by the way, you can't switch leaders without a valid reason. You get me? Nudge, nudge, wink, wink, and the whole thing falls apart! The result of this whole mess is that Class C comes last and Class D comes first. Ayanokoji does everything but gives all the credit to Horikita. We also find out that Ayanokoji is a sociopath trained to use humans as nothing but tools. But I think we all kinda knew that. Well, Ayanokoji was able to guess the rest of the leaders in a very stupid way. The guy from Class A openly showing the card while literally saying isn't actually the leader. What? It had to be the guy next to him instead if they wanted to capture the point. For Class C, he found out a different way. You see, Class C actually just blew through all of their points on the first day and left the island the next. But while scouting, Ayanokoji saw a walkie-talkie next to Ryuen. He later finds that same walkie-talkie in Ibuki's bag, letting him know that Ryuen was in fact still on the island as their leader. Again, a flawed deduction. Someone could have left it there. It could belong to anyone near him. He could have been not on the island with the walkie-talkie. Someone else could have the same walkie-talkie, and the list goes on and on. Also, another example of the others being stupid, rather than Ayanokoji doing anything special, but since he is supposed to be smart, he is always right. That brings me to another fatal flaw of this show. The reason the characters that are supposed to be smart get things right. You see, they aren't smart because they get things right. They get things right because they are smart. Think about the first deductions by Horikita. As I stated earlier, all of them were really flawed, but she deducts correctly for each of them only because she is supposed to be a smart character. I don't want to be force-fed the ideas that these people are smart. I want to think that for myself after seeing some of their outplays. Once again, back to Death Note. We are told that L and Light are smart, but we are also shown that through the deductions and constant one-step ahead plans. This show just wants us to simply believe that the smart characters are right because they are smart, and that makes the whole thing feel not deserved and kind of an asspull. From there, we go straight into another part of the test, which is explained just horribly. They use big words and awkward sentence structures to really just make the whole thing more complicated than it needs to be. For example, even the simplest thing about the test, that the test will have 8 groups, has such a wordy explanation. They have several more instances of just using big words along with very cluttered visual representations to just make the whole thing incomprehensible. Basically though, it boils down to this. A VIP is secretly chosen in each group. If the others guess who they are, they and their class get points. If they guess wrong, they lose points. If the VIP comes out and enters in their guess with everyone, they all gain points. I won't go into too much detail as it isn't important, but I think you already know what happens. Ayano Koji lies, but someone catches it. But that lie was a lie. But that person knew that that lie that was a lie was a lie. But then unexpectedly, Class C won by knowing that Kushida was her VIP. How? Because there was a pattern and a simple way that the VIPs were chosen. Each group was named after a planet in the solar system. Each planet sequence in the solar system's number is a person who will be VIP in alphabetical order. I know that sounds complicated, so let me give you an example. Earth, which is the third farthest from the sun, will have its third person in alphabetical order as VIP. Again, we are just supposed to believe that Ryuen was able to figure this out because he was smart. Furthermore, there's no way to prove that rule unless you know another group's VIP. How does he know this? We'll find out later. To drive home this point that the characters are just given things because they are smart, one of the girls in Class D is going through the most cliche bullying there is. I mean, the girls bullying her literally says,
こいつ許せないかも。でしょ？本気でいじめちゃう？
I wouldn't be surprised if she got her lunch money stolen, shoved in the locker, given swirlies, and a knuckle sandwich after that. But Ayano Koji saves her and promises to protect her in exchange for her helping him with his plans because he is cool and the girl falls in love with him. More things just given to him for no reason. This kind of stuff continues in the sports festival arc. This is a sports festival where you can get bonus points on exams if you perform well. Because smart, Ayano Koji knows that there will be a traitor in their class in the near future. Remember how Ryuen figured out that Kushida was her VIP? Also remember how she is a fake-ass bitch? I'm sure all of us were surprised when we found out that the fake-ass bitch was being a fake-ass bitch. Well, Kushida wants to completely crush Horikita, so she leaked the Class D roster to Class C, and Class C will in turn crush them. Literally. Class C's strategy to win the whole thing is to basically just beat people up. But they make it seem like an accident by accidentally having 6 people step all over someone. And it being an accident makes them innocent. Smart, right? But also, to crush Horikita even more, they beat up a girl of their own and will blame Horikita for it. It's almost like they accidentally beat up other people just a few minutes prior. Why wouldn't she get away with the same thing? I think we all know the answer. Let's say it together. Because smart. Well, Ryuen, with the help of Kushida, blackmails her into giving him 1,000,000 points and to grovel at his feet. When Horikita later confronts the two tell her their plan and that they beat up the girl. Oh, but what's that? Horikita was recording all along. But oh, double what's that? Ryuen says that this was all hypothetical in the beginning. Oh, but triple what's that? Horikita says that she could just edit that out. But quadruple what's that? Ryuen has been recording the part where she says she will edit that part out. But quintuple what's that? Ayano Koji was recording that whole thing when they were first going over their plan in private. How? Because Ayano Koji just plants a bug on Kushida at some point. Again, nothing smart, just everyone else being stupid, and things just being handed to the characters. Oh yeah, also, Ayano Koji is able to run fast because he is cool, so another girl likes him. By the way, 4 separate girls having a crush on him. Is this a harem? Finally, we are introduced to our last arc, which is just another test. But for this one, you get to make and choose the other class's questions for 8 different subjects. But the more important thing about this test is Kushida's deal with Horikita. You see, Horikita made a deal with Kushida where if Kushida gets a higher score on a subject of her choosing, both Horikita and Ayano Koji will drop out. We also get to see some of Kushida's backstory, and basically it is just her seeking attention, not getting it, and throwing a fit. But they crank the edginess to the max. To win, Kushida makes a deal with Ryuen where he gives her the answers to his questions and she gives them theirs. She goes to submit the questions and tells the teacher to act like she accepts any other questions if submitted, but just shred it afterwards. But Horikita predicted this and did the same thing 3 days prior. Ryuen knew this all along because smart and gave Kushida the wrong answers on purpose. To top it all off, she has a cheat sheet for all the correct answers for the tests planted by the mastermind inside her jacket. So even if she did win, she would still be expelled for cheating. You may be thinking,
私とあんたしか持っていないはずのこれをなんで黒幕は知ってたわけ
because the mastermind's smart. This whole super smart strategy was just everyone blatantly lying and Kushida being too stupid to realize that the evil person who lies a lot is being evil and lying. Some minor things happen, such as Ayanokoji's deal with the girl he promised to protect ending and meeting Ayanokoji's dad, but none of that really matters. Now Ryuen wants to crush Ayanokoji, so what does he do? Kidnaps the girl he promised to protect. But oh no, the deal has ended. But that matters not, since our white knight comes and defeats the bad guys. But the biggest but yet, this was all part of his plan to make her completely depend on her because Ayanokoji is a cool, cold sociopath that is very cool. Hey, the animation is cool at least. The final verdict is that this show was terrible. It tried to be way more edgy than it needed to be with dialogue like this.
心に闇を持つ者は惹かれ合う。そして、より強い側が相手を包み込んでいく。
何なのよあんた
この世界には、お前が知るよりも深い闇がある。
Nothing smart happened with things like the whole show happening. Nothing cool happened. It was simply dumb. I understand that many people who like this show are kids who don't know much better, and that is reasonable. I thought it was cool when I was 12, but as I grew up, matured a little, and thought about anything at all the cool factor just left me. If you still think that the show is any good after watching this video, or you are at an age above 15 thinking, man, I want to be like Ayanokoji, dude, seriously, take a real good look at yourself. Finally, I've taken a lot of inspiration in this video and how I want to do my future videos from my anime talker about her senpai, Mother's Basement, and have also gotten a few ideas about the show from the Anime Out of Context episode about this, so thank you to both of you. And be sure to check out their stuff too. Thank you for watching, and please give me any feedback you might have through comments or my email. This is my first video, and I would appreciate any feedback. I am working on a new video already about a couple of kakus, so look forward to that. This video took lots of effort with 5 to 6 hours of rigorous research, script writing, recording, and editing every day for about a week. You can make all the hard work worth it though by leaving a like and subscribing. My name is NoahBoahCoah, and thanks for watching.